All right, one more thing. And we are ready to go. Hi, everybody. Hello. So exciting to be back. We have our first great show of the year, a new Katase Healing Talk, and we will be talking about truth. More specifically, why the ancients say that truth is critical for healing and waking up. So my name is Helmut, and I am here with our beautiful, beautiful friends and remarkable Katase and Red Door practitioners, Laura and Laura. Hi, guys.
Hello.
And of course, Kay Cadell Whitaker. Hi, Kay. The author of The Reluctant Shaman and Sacred Link, and so much more. Over the holidays, we had some fun times. Kay and I do our retreats over the holidays, and we really do some cool stuff. A lot of it is relaxing, and a lot of it is talking. And one of the things we talked about at length was truth, and how little there is to be found in our current culture, and what the ancient teachings say about that. And eventually we decided to just do a series on it. And the series we titled Points of Truth That the Ancients Talk About. And so today we do the first in the series. I don't know how we're going to go forward because there's so much to talk about, but I'm sure it will develop just fine and beautifully. But today, as I mentioned, why do the ancients say that truth, the pursuit of truth, the commitment to truth and finding the truth is critical to healing and waking up? So, hi, welcome again, everybody, and have fun. Let's have fun. Enjoy.
Okay. So, why is truth so important? And what is it that the ancients tell us? First of all, I think I'll define who I mean when I'm talking about the ancients. I'm talking about the traditions of my teachers, and it comes from two major traditions of the world. And one of them is pre-flood Egypt. So that's pre-dynastic and pre-flood old culture Egypt. And the other is ancient lineage of Peru that they say themselves started in Lemuria and was given by the Star people. And the ancient Egyptians say that their knowledge was concentrated on Atlantis, from Atlantis being the heart of that culture at that time. And that's when the common human people were able to mix with the aliens. And it's the aliens who taught them this. And they have the same tradition from Lemuria as well. It's the star people, the aliens, that taught them these things.
You're talking about Pleiadians specifically, right?
Pleiadians, most specifically from that, and that's on the Lemurian side, and more so the dog star Sirius from the Egyptian side. But there are other aliens that have mixed with these people who are on these continents or islands of Lemuria and Atlantis. It was a time when the humans lived with and walked with the gods and mated with the gods. And they came from many different places, but dominantly in Egypt, Sirius was the biggest contributor. And in Lemuria, Pleiades was the biggest contributor. They say the same things. They say very much the same things. As it's come down through the ages, the language changes and the colloquialisms change, and how to make people understand what you're trying to say. You have to speak in their colloquialisms. So, you get these variations around the world, but it's the same knowledge. It's just from the same groups of people. So without the real truth of things, we fall into disarray, and we fall into a lost world without the pursuit of truth. And without the pursuit of truth within society, within all the people of the society, that society falls into chaos and disarray and disorder. And that's what we see around us today. That's where we are today. Without the pursuit of truth, a person never touches the spiritual or the moral or the ethical, the realities of things spiritual, and that whole, they say the compass of morality and ethics just is not part of their reality. They can't see it. They can't feel it. Without the pursuit of truth, you never feel and you never know your own song. And not knowing your own song carries a horrific pain. It's a sadness, a sorrow, all of its own, but it's huge and it's deep, and it fills up our unconscious. Without the truth and without the pursuit of truth, we believe that we are disconnected from everything. We believe that that is the truth of reality, like science says today, that we are disconnected. We're alone. Everything is alone and separate islands unto ourselves. And when we believe that, we get lost. We get lost really, really easily. We get emotionally lost, mentally lost, and very spiritually lost. And that means physically, you end up being lost. You lose your health. Without truth, we never know real love. We think we know what love is in our world at this day and age. We think we know what love is, but we don't. We know conditional love, love with conditions, but we don't know the true love that's out there among all living things and out there throughout the universe, which is unconditional. Truly, truly unconditional love. No matter what, there's still love. Without real truth, we can never know the field of aliveness and consciousness. That's the field of energy that we live in, that is everywhere. It's in everything. It's between everything. It's in the black void of space. It's not a void. It's love. and all the energies that it produces. And you can't know it if the truth is blocked away from you, or you're blocking yourself from the truth. Without truth, we just truly don't know who we are. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we are. We don't know where we belong. And never quite feel right. Belonging, home, family. There's always some stress going on, some feeling of distance. We don't understand why we're here. If we don't know the truth, if we're not pursuing the truth, we don't have a clue why we're here. The pursuit of truth is the pursuit of freedom, real freedom. Real freedom. Freedom is the foundation of our individual and our cultural awakening and healing. True freedom is when we stepped out of this cultural box for real, for sure. Never going back in. Not going to ever build another one. That's real freedom. The truth is where we find beauty. And it's where we find love. And it's where we find peace. We'll never know peace if we're hiding the truth of things from us. We'll never know the truth of all those other people around the planet we've been having a war with forever. We don't really know them. And we'll never find peace without that truth. The truth is where we're finding confidence, connectedness, happiness, fulfillment, real aliveness, real awakening. So, what do you all have to say?
So many thoughts. I think truth is always, it's been in this journey what I wanted the most and my biggest challenge. I mean, I keep seeing that Jack Nicholson scene, truth, you can't handle the truth. And that is the truth, ish. Of what we've been told. I mean, I see over and over again in my life and my story how I was convinced of the dangers of truth. That truth was dangerous. Over and over again, it's been some of my unweaving to get where I've been, is to not fear the truth. I had this Southern mom who was the queen of the little white lie. It's just like no one really knew, I'm still unwinding the accuracy of some of her stories. Because the white lie was to protect you. And so I can see, so much for me is the fear of truth that was keeping me in the dark monkey forest. I use that metaphor, that analogy over and over again, that I remind myself of the cowardly lion hiding behind the stone, and here comes Dorothy, Toto, the Tin Man, and Scarecrow, you know, my spirit team and other great people, to take me to Oz. And I'm terrified of the dark monkey forest, but I'm going to chase them away. I'm going to jump out and scare them, you know, and, you know, instead of joining the journey to Oz, I was going to stay in the dark. You know, there was so much fear around the truth, but fortunately the call, you know, fortunately I was the lion. And that lion metaphor has been over and over again. There was more courage than fear, ultimately, because I know, as peeling back the lies that I've been told, the lies I've been, you know, and more of them I've told myself than other people have told me. I've seen the beauty. You know, the truth is beautiful. You know, there was a period of time I thought I was being more honest with myself. I was just trading boxes. You know, you know, I was, and you know, almost my process in finding the truth was trying on other boxes first. Trying on this box and trying on that box, until I realized the truth is about dropping the boxes completely. And the power and the beauty and all of it that comes through the Oz. You know, the journey to Oz was incredible. Yeah, I think that's why I'm excited about level 1 coming again. You know, that series, you know, is not about, Katasi's never been about telling you a new box or giving you a new truth. Even though there's a lot of truth in it. But you realize it's the truth from the tools, truth making tools.
For sure.
Yeah, it's just, you know, using the tools to find your truth and the uniqueness of your truth and the beauty of your truth, and not another box. You know, I definitely feel like that is part of my nature now, is to figure out how to keep finding a truth. Chasing beauty.
It's amazing. You know, we're all on our own journey, but yet we're all on this journey together. And I think about when my journey really started, because of feeling that unhappiness, that buzz, that just was, that I was disconnected from everything. And you don't even know exactly what it is, but I remember the hundreds of books I read, just trying to find what was missing. And then I found your books. And I was telling Laura a little while ago, but when I found your book, gosh, just gave me so many tools. I didn't really quite understand what song was. But, you know, the way the universe does it is, when you're trying to find the truth of who you are, it kind of lines stuff up, and and then you get to experience it, right? And I was telling Laura a little while ago that I was in a motor vehicle accident. It was a head-on collision, and I had several bones that were just broken. I had plenty of screws and plates and stuff in my body, and the medical establishment couldn't figure out a way to help me with the pain. My body just didn't process the medication and stuff. And I was laying in bed at home in so much pain, and off to my right was this little bookcase. It was no bigger than this. And out of all those hundreds of books, there was 2 books written by you. And I at that time I didn't even have my glasses. They had been lost in the accident. But I knew those two books were up there, and I remembered the lessons in it. And so I'm laying there, and I can't even begin to tell you the pain that I was in. But I looked out the window and I started to find my song. And I found my song in the blue of the sky, in the green of the grass, and it just started to grow. And then I could really feel my aliveness. And I got to witness almost dying to finding my song again, and that truth of who I really am, that I'm just so much more than even the body that was laying there in the bed that was in pain. And I realized that my body was in my mind. It wasn't the other way. My consciousness, my awareness was just so much more than just this physical body. And how do you get to that point in your life where you want to search for that truth of who you really are? And then when you start searching for that truth for who you really are, you start to feel that connection, that we're all connected. And then it always leads to love. It does. When you start really exploring your song, it always leads to love. And then you start seeing love in everybody else because they're you. I mean, and it's just having those tools to start to see yourself different, searching for that truth of who you really are. And our society doesn't put that in front of you. What leads you to start looking for that truth?
Ooh. Ooh.
I had to be in a motor vehicle accident.
Let's not go over that.
And if I could turn that around and not have that experience, I don't know that I would choose not to, because I gained so much of knowing who I am, who I really am, which is unlimited. Wow.
I did not get hit by a bus to do this. I mean, that's it. But Kay, you said it, the pursuit of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the call to more. And mine happened when all was happiest, and it wasn't happiest. All should have been. All was perfect on paper. I did not have it's not that I didn't get hit by a car, but rear-ended, but I didn't have those kind of accidents.
Yeah, we all come to it in our own way.
We do. There is, and you've said it before, when the alarm clock goes off, it's just like, I often feel like resetting people, or turning people's timers forward. So more people, the alarm starts going off sooner and sooner and sooner. And I think that is happening. I think there's a place in this world now where the lions are emerging. It's just like there was a card, and if I can find it, I pulled it last week, and it pulled it again today. The lion, stops wanting to wear the sheep's wool. It's no more about being in the sheep. It's about really being the lion. And I think that pursuit of truth is such a rebellious thing that we're told is dangerous. And we're basically being told unconditional love is dangerous. Like you said, that beauty is dangerous. Freedom is dangerous. When those are just, the more they're our truth. They're just aspects of our truth. Our truth has all those things. As unique as we are. That is something all of our truths seem to have. Is there, is freedom and desire for that freedom. It's definitely you'd mentioned it in this, there's a point where there's no back door. You might pause in your pursuit, but to go backwards is too devastating. You know, Macbeth in Macbeth, that tomorrow and tomorrow, the lives of common fools, you know, where you feel like there's really no life, that you are in that black and white Kansas, and there's that's the life without truth. I know the Matrix makes the blue pill versus the red pill pursuit a little scarier. For those who've seen the Matrix, I can tell, you know, coming into the truth isn't that traumatic, or hasn't been for me. It's been gentle, kind, and beautiful. And it hasn't had the fear. I was, you know, I'd convinced myself there was, and others had convinced me there was. By far just the opposite. You know, there's actually this like beautiful loving group on the other side who's applauding you on.
I love that when you start to see truth, you start to see the shadows that has been and sometimes continue to drive your experience. But when you start to know the truth, those shadows don't, it's like you're observing stuff from outside of that. You can let those things go, and they don't have to be your motivating force anymore, because that's false. That's not the truth of the way things really are. I know that on this journey, it just seems like I keep getting more and more truth. And the more truth is that I'm just so much more than just this body. And we all are. And how do you know that other than to experience it? And the tools that you give us to help experience that nonlinear part of who we are. Because when you start to love yourself, it heals so many things in so many areas that, I mean, you can't even line them up to say how much is healed. You can't. There's the healing on the physical level, and there's spiritual level, and the emotional level, and the relationship level, and your connection to all that is. It's just like a snowball. It just keeps rolling down the hill, and you just don't realize how much it's impacting. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and go, wow, things are pretty good. I'm doing something right. I got some truth going on here, and I'm going to keep holding on to that and making it bigger.
But that's another truth. You can't heal yourself. You know, that's not possible.
You can love yourself, and then in loving yourself, those false things drop away.
Yeah.
So what do you say about that, Kay?
Or helmet.
Yeah, or helmet. Yeah, please. I love when Laura and I talk. We just kind of gab, back.
Yeah, this is our normal talk. But wait, what have you thought of? And most of the time it's out loud.
Beautiful.
This is good.
Thank you. So, Kay, what do you think?
Well, the truth that we've been trained to be in a box, to live in a box, to think inside the box, to feel inside the box, everything. We're trained what to feel, what to think, what to believe, how we're supposed to do, what actions to take through our life. We're supposed to do this and that and the other. We're supposed to be this person with this kind of a job and this kind of money. And that's literally being in a box, trapped. It's a prison where you cannot see or feel or even think your way out. of that box to find the truth that sits right outside the wall of that box. And it's just a paper box. It's not substantial. It can't hold up, will not last forever. And it's mostly made by other people, reinforced by you to keep it there. And those nasty little cultural boxes, they're hiding this incredible beauty. And by beauty, I don't just mean pretty. I'm closer to the native thoughts of what beauty is. There is that aesthetic aspect to the word, especially in our culture. But beauty means real love and real freedom and real truth and knowing how things really are out there. You were taught things like the trees and the plants. They're just plants, and you put them in the ground and they grow and you water them, you take care of them, and they make sure they get enough sunlight, enough water, or soil, and they're not connected. They don't have anything but the most crude life. They're made of cells that are alive and are operating, and we're taught these really simple, cold, disconnecting ideas. But when you really go out there and touch the tree, hug the tree, sit down by the tree and talk to it and listen. Don't just talk at it, but have a two-way conversation with the tree. Feel. Let your whole self feel the tree while you're there trying to talk with the tree. Ask it questions. Ask it for help. Whatever it is you want or you need in the moment. And the trees always answer. And they're always loving. And they're always reaching out. They have so much more than their branches and leaves. They have a whole huge energy body and consciousness. And they're connected to everything and connected to you. And when you feel that, that's where the real truth comes into your awareness, through the feeling of it. And you can feel what the tree says to you and what it's feeling. And you could ask it about its history. It'll tell you all about, as much as you want to know, it'll go on and on for a long time. You're talking to a big tree, it can have a lot of history. If you want truths of life and living and how to live a better life, how to make your own life better, what kind of things you should eat or not, or, anything. The tree knows. Trees know. They can tell you what the truth is out there. The truth of things. And it isn't just thoughts and somebody's ideas. And it's a whole feeling. And it's the feeling of their connectedness. You could feel how they're connected to you. And you can feel how they're connected to the ground and the other plants nearby and the other trees in the air. And it's so interactive and so connected. And you can feel the knowledge and the love being shared back and forth. And it doesn't take much. You just have to let yourself feel it and not let your mind get in the way and edit everything out. Tell you, how silly you are, how wrong you are. It's real living. You being really, really alive and allowing your aliveness to come to the forefront. And how to let the awareness of your connectedness to of everything else, how to let that come to the forefront. Feel it. Feel it all. That's what the ancients say. That's what they teach. As soon as you start feeling some of it, you are popping big holes in that paper box. And it's kind of like Humpty Dumpty, at the shell of the egg and sitting on the wall and falling down, and the eggshell smashes to bits, and the egg is set free to the rest of the world. You can't put Humpty Dumpty's shell back together. You're never going to be like you were asleep and living blindly in that box. You can never go back. It's not a matter of choice. You can't undo that kind of thing. You just can't undo it.
Thank goodness.
And it continues to grow on its own. That awareness, that consciousness, it just keeps expanding from that point on. When you can increase the expansion, you can do things to help make it expand farther and faster and bigger and better. And there's more truth there and more freedom in there and more aliveness and more love. This world has so much love. You look on TV, and even if you don't go to regular TV, if you're hooking up to looking what kind of movies or series are on, like on Netflix or some of the other venues, and you look at the movies and TV shows, it's really rare and hard to find a good story, a good movie, a good presentation worthy of your time that talks about real things. The rest of the movies, shows, TV shows, are all about violence and being at war and tricking each other, hating each other, suspicious of each other. It's just perpetuating what's been around for many, 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 many thousands of years for humans. And we learned that from some unfortunate aliens that lived that way and taught us that way. And they would like to, that kind of thinking would like to see it continue. Don't want us to be free, don't want us to grow up. As long as we're living in the box, we're not growing up. We're just little kids and learning how to be nasty little kids, mean little kids, and fighting with each other. We don't notice anything that's true. We don't notice the feeling of anything true. We're in that asleep in the box state. We would truly believe the garbage we were taught as tiny kids growing up. And our ancestors have been taught that. There's some other cultures on the planet who live a very different way, are very much more awake. And in their own, usually indigenous ancient traditions, much more awake than the modern world. We can learn a lot from all of that. And these ancient teachings that have been passed down. I know it seems like a remarkable amount of time to keep the truth from not getting distorted. But the people who really, really knew and understood went to incredible lengths to keep that truth and their culture alive, teaching their children how important it was, essential. And it's so essential, it means life or death for the entire human species. In the long run, the bigger picture, that's what we're looking at. Our own annihilation. Or we could be free and be living in peace and beauty and love and fun and aliveness, knowledge, real knowledge. Even in our modern culture, the system of knowledge that exists and is passed along is so restrictive and so full of lies and misconceptions. Some of it is purposeful and some of it isn't. And a lot of it just continues to be passed on. They don't question.
Most of it is. I
They
take
don't.
option 2.
They don't question.
Because it's dangerous.
That is, to not question, that is very dangerous. You're going to end up in a box and stay in a box.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you.
What do you have to say about truth?
There are so many thoughts about so many different areas running through my head. I had a head-on collision with a tree. And that was kind of a big turning point. But the more you, looking back, I sometimes describe my life as the relentless pursuit of truth. And it never stops. And the more you learn, and the more you realize what's the truth of you, of relationships, of life, of being alive, the more you begin to see how our modern culture is so deeply programmed to live in a construction of shadows and lies. And there's not much to be found that is real truth. And as you described when you first started to talk about what is truth and where you find truth, the pain of living in that is just, I could not bear it. I didn't want it, which was one of the reasons of my tree encounter, I'm sure. But it also helped me turn it around and started me on a real search for it, for what this is all about. And like Laura, one of the Laura said, when you start your search for it, things fall in your lap that help you along that way. But my question is, how do you make a commitment to that truth when you live in the muggle world programming, and that's your world, and you don't even really know that it's a made-up picture, that it's a made-up life, and that there's a world, an infinite world of beauty outside of that. So how do you find that?
Question everything and feel. Try to feel. When we're living in a sleep world, we're in that box. The training that we received, the being taught the lies, the training of the culture took our physical senses and turned them down, just like turning the faucet, turned them way down. So they're just barely running, barely enough energy to keep them running. And the reason the culture did that is that our physical senses are like a window. They're a doorway, a window to our spiritual senses. They not only help us get around in a physical world, letting us know that, there's a table there and the burner's hot and stuff like that. But when we really focus on them and the feeling of them, even if it evokes emotions, the emotional feelings, it'll encourage your spirit senses to engage, encourage you to feel more totally. And this was a teaching that I wrote about in the second book. The whole book is based on that, teaching how to wake up my physical senses and what that does to the rest of you, to the non-linear part of you, to your emotions, to your mental thinking, to your physical body and its health. It wakens everything. It wakens everything up, everything. And I remember in my studies with this, I was in the sense of touch, the physical sense of touch. And that's the only sense I paid a great deal of attention to. I didn't try to get a whole lot out of hearing or seeing or smelling or tasting. So I just wanted to touch, just touch. And that was the exercise. Wherever I went, I had to feel. And I remember right after getting that assignment, I had to get on the bus and go back to the rest of my life, to the kids. It was about time for them to get home. I better get there really quick. And so I was on the bus, and this is a college town. I was in college. I lived at the student apartments, and it was just the right time of day to have a crowded bus, really, really crowded bus. And it swung down around downtown, and it swung around the beach, picking up all probably the students. That's probably why it had that route, and the bars, all that, pick up the students, bring them home, bring them back. And it went back up to the campus. And okay, I was touching. And then I realized how much I really didn't want to be touching any of these people. The bus is really crowded. It's, you know, there's a standing room only. All the seats were just, you know, and I was standing, sandwiched in with all these people, sweaty from the beach, and they stink, the surfers, and everybody, some young high school students with too much perfume on was in the other direction. And I had to touch them. I had no choice. And I had to smell them and had to see them. They were there. I could try to wish them away, but that didn't work. I had to engage them and everything they represented with that sense of touch. The smell too. That was and something on somebody's shoe that I don't know what it was, but it was really bad. It was just, I don't think there were any windows down in the bus. It was hot. It was summer. It was smothering in there. And I didn't have a lot of clothes on. So it meant like I have to touch skin to skin. And I go, oh, God, I'm going to catch their cooties. I had no idea that I felt that way. That I was so repulsed by the concept of touching other people or touching where they had been touching or sitting. That it was such an eye-opener. It taught me so many different things. And that smell, I wanted to like hold my breath or breathe through my mouth, but I could, still kind of smell and taste it through my mouth. One of the important things that it started to lead me towards was the connectedness. And my connectedness to the field around us, and my connectedness to all other humans. Because I was among those who truly believed we were not connected to each other. That's the scientific way, and I was brought up like that. And then I realized I couldn't get away from that. And then I saw, after many of these experiences, I don't know how long I did these exercises. I think I might have given a time limit in the book, weeks, months, on one sense. So I had no car. I had I didn't have the chance to ride to all these places individually. I always had to take the bus. And so just ready, built-in experiences right there with all these different people, different walks of life. And I got to where I wanted to take a bus ride, just to take a bus ride, see who's on it, and what I can feel. So with the physical senses, for all of them, they all touch different parts of us and are non-linear parts of our being. And they help awaken the non-linear and the spirit senses, which all kind of relate to our physical senses. But it's like an extension of them, extension of feeling with the skin, extension of hearing, and an extension, with the eyes, seeing things, tasting or smelling. You're taking things into your body, taking those molecules in your body and connecting to them And that became so amazing and very scary at first. Didn't want to have anything like that touching me or in my body or anything else like that. Keep it all away from me, thank you. But in the middle of that exercise, if I was going to do it at all, I had to go ahead and really do it. I had to commit to it. And I think what I wanted, why I wanted to commit to it, in thinking back through my past and my asleepness, and we're all born awake. We have our little toddler self and infant self is awake, no mocks. It's all awakeness and song and beauty, aliveness. And then we get taught all this other stuff. And I think some part of me remembered what I experienced when I was really little, and I wanted it back. But I couldn't remember what I wanted back. But when I was doing the eyes, I was down on the beach with Chia, and I was just digging through the sand. So there's all these sand dunes down at the beach and these little plants, not many of them, but little bit. And digging through it just happened. I suddenly saw all these colors and movement and aliveness and connectedness and beauty. And I remembered being still a toddler sitting in the mud outside the back door. My mother had kind of placed me there to play or be in the sun or get out of her hair a little bit or something. I don't know. But I was in the mud, and it was so glorious. It was sparkling and had all these colors and the shooting colors all over the place. And all of that was alive and thinking and talking. And all that mud was talking with itself, and the blackberry bush was right there, and it was talking with the blackberry bush, and it was talking to me, and it loved me, and it was so exquisite, ecstatic. I could feel it with everything, every part of me. And of course, I got in trouble because I smeared it all over, and I was tasting it and had it all over my clothes, which I don't think was my mother's idea at that time. I think she had put me in those clothes so that I would look decent when she took me with her somewhere. But she found me out there in the mud and being in the glory with the beauty of the mud. And I got in trouble and got taken inside. My clothes changed and got all washed. I remembered that incident when I was sifting through the sand. I remember that incident, and I was so shocked. I was seeing it and feeling it again. And this time it was with sand, which, people think there's a lot less life in the sand than in the soil. But this was so alive and so full of life and many kinds of life and conversations and loving and sharing, giving, receiving. It was wonderful. I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to stay there and play in the sand and remember and feel it and see it now. So I think that's been with me, the desire to recover that, to get back to that truth. And when I was having a hard time at home in the house, as a kid of any age, so pretty stressful sometimes at home, and I'd sneak off and I'd go out into the forest because there was a big forest right out there and just play with the trees, play with the dirt and the rocks, and make little huts, little homes, cottages or whatever to be in. And I didn't realize it till later. I was talking with them. I was communicating with them and talking with them, and they were all my best friends, and they loved me. And as I got a little older, I walked down to the beach and sat on the rocks on the cliffs. And when you see what a place looks like, you go, oh my God, I wouldn't let my child go down there forever for anything. But everybody did. You know, they didn't seem to try to curtail you much at all. So that's how I grew up, sitting on the beach, on those rocks, or in the forest. And I wanted that. I wanted that as my real life. To me, that was real life. Junk going on in the home, in the asleep home. That was not life. I wanted to get out of that. And I think the kicker was when I was in my 20s and the kids got hurt. And it was a man that hurt them. And I didn't see it coming. I didn't feel it coming. I didn't see it coming. And I wanted to be able to know the truth about people, be able to read people and know the truth of their heart and their behavior and their beliefs. And that was the real kicker, and it drove me to study really, really hard with the teachings. To spend as much time as I could learning about the teachings, learning about the ancient ways and the ways of those aliens. So that I could be it, and I would know and have knowingness and have the truth, see the truth, feel the truth.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kay. We are up on the hour, and I'd like to keep him around that time, unless there's anything you want to add to that. You are watching or listening to a Katasa Healing Talk. And if you want to catch future talks, katasa.world/live. And the book is called, the book that Kay just talked about at length, Going into the Senses and the Doorway to Heaven, as the Doorway to Heaven. Sacred Link, Joining Fortunes with the Unknown. Okay. Any other thoughts? Or are we ready to close out?
I would just remind people that this is the truth, is the tools for truth is what's taught here. I didn't mean it to rhyme so much or tongue tie so much, but that the core of a lot of what you're talking about, with the signature work, those classes are coming up real soon to learn them live with UK. And it's such an amazing opportunity, live or online. These tools are, being taught directly by you or coming up. And those who are called to this, more of them, to want the more of them and want the truth. It's totally possible.
You can find us at laurakede.com. That's where you can find Dolores. At katasi.com, you can find me. And Kay is always hiding, so.
Wouldn't necessarily call it hiding.
That was beautiful. Thank you both so much for
Thank you
sharing.
both.
Kay, your
Hey,
stories.
thank you.
Oh God, thank you.
Thank you.
You always kind of shift things towards what's real so quickly. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Helmut, for everything that you do to make these happen.
And we see you all next time. Walk in beauty. Love you.
Bye-bye. Love you all.
Bye-bye.